Hello and welcome to the Strained Hammy podcast. Today is Monday, July 29th. My name is Mark.
And I'm Travis.
Today we're going to be talking about Cowboys, Rangers, and our favorite balls. Sports balls, that is. All right, so Cowboys training camp's underway. Kind of a rough start as far as injuries go, but I think a lot of teams are facing that battle.
Yeah, and truth be told, I'd rather Tyron Crawford be out for the year than a guy like Jeremy Maclin or a guy like Dennis Pitta. That's the equivalent of Dez or Jason Witten going out. So I'll take the hand we were dealt there.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate, obviously, but I'll take what we got in that deal.
Mm-hmm. So kind of the idea behind this segment is to wrangle your Cowboys fans. They seem to be going a little crazy.
Yeah.
You had a couple posts on the site recently, kind of expanding on your excitement for the season.
Yeah, and there's going to be a part two to that. The first one was basically reasons to be optimistic about the Cowboys offense. The second one will be reasons to be optimistic about the Cowboys defense. And the reason why is if you're a bummer right now, I hate you. Tell me why everything's bad in week 9, but don't tell me why everything's bad in week 0.
Week 0.
No, I am really excited about the Cowboys this year. I probably get that way a little bit every year, but this year more than most. A big reason for that is if you would have asked me 10 years ago who my favorite defensive coordinator in the NFL was, I would have said Monty Kiffin. If you would have asked me last year, I would have said Rod Marinelli. And so both of those dudes are on our staff now. Defensively, I've always thought we had pretty decent defensive talent, and it gets better by the year because I feel like our defensive drafts have been okay with the exception of the 3 years where we drafted no one somehow. Our 3 missing drafts.
Yeah.
But I am really excited. I think they're going to be able to use DeMarcus in a new and exciting way. I'm excited about Barry Church coming back. There's a lot of good things, and I love defenses predicated on turnovers because that gives your offense more opportunity to score. And I think this offense is dangerous enough that it will score. And I think that Bill Callahan, if you look at his scoring offenses through the years, his offenses score about half a point more a game than Garrett's. And if you take away the year that you take away the Raiders, we all quit at the same time year, and he was part of that too. So I'm not trying to, but literally everybody on the team was like, forget it. If you take that year out of the equation, his team score, I want to say it's 3 points more a game than Garrett's teams, and Garrett's teams score pretty well, but they score more middle of the pack. Callahan had teams that were first in scoring, second in scoring, fifth in scoring offense. And so if you score more and you get more turnovers, you win games.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they've been so average at scoring the football and so bad at taking the football away the last couple of years, they had 16 turnovers last year. That's amazing. Tony Romo had 19 interceptions by himself.
Yeah.
So they had negative turnovers just in that before you accounted for fumbles or anything. And so they just didn't do enough turning the ball over, and that's where Kiffin and Marinelli really shine. And so I think we have a real chance at 10-6 or 11-5 or something like that. I'm not going to go crazy and say 13-3 because teams just don't do that in the NFL now. But I am excited.
Yeah, I'm more excited than I have been in past years too. And I mean, as much as people like to make fun of Jerry for saying things are going to get uncomfortable in Valley Ranch, he did make some changes. And with the new defensive coaching situation that you mentioned, and then Bill Callahan, and the thing that's kind of exciting me too now that training camp has started is that we've got all these people pushing one another as far as like positional battles. Even Miles Austin kind of sees the writing on the wall if you read some of his quotes. I mean, guys know that they're not comfortable
And
you know,
a motivated Miles Austin, even cap-wise, would be great for the next 2 years, which would give Terrence Williams plenty of time to get up to speed. And so, you're absolutely right. And the thing that's impressed me most about Jerry Jones and his things are going to be uncomfortable, he's changed the way he does stuff. I just saw today that the Titans signed Chance Warmack, who was their first-round pick. Dallas has had all their picks signed up for a month and a half.
Yeah.
That's never happened. The Cowboys are always one of the last. Yeah. I mean, even Dez, who was like, I really want to sign here, just give me a number and I'll sign it. They signed him pretty deep into camp. And so that's a different thing than they normally do. And one thing we wanted to get to in the segment, Jerry Jones was being interviewed, and they asked him about re-signing Dan Bailey, whether he'd give an extension to a kicker. And Dan Bailey's awesome, so I'm all for it, especially because kickers just don't cost that much. I mean, it's not going to be expensive.
Yeah.
But Jerry Jones has never paid a kicker. He's always like, Steve Hoffman, find me a new guy. And so we struggled for a couple of years. He finally paid Mike Vanderjack, and then he blew up. But he's not for paying kickers generally. He'll draft a kicker now sometimes, but he won't pay him. And so he was like, Dan's really good, and so that's good. He was doing his normal Jerry speak. Yeah. And Steven from behind him was like, yeah, we would do that. and then Jerry was like, yeah, I mean, Steven said yeah. So I got to remember sometimes when I answer these questions that Steven's the one that's got to pay for it. And so it shows that he's handed a lot of the reins over to Steven, maybe not in player evaluations, but certainly but it's got to be some in player evaluation, but certainly in like the amount of cap space that you would allocate to positions.
Sort of business operations.
Yeah. And so, and maybe that speaks to some of the change in now we draft guys to replace guys that have too big of cap hits, or now we sign our draft picks early. Now we would consider re-signing a kicker. And so, I mean, that's a big deal. Because this is a guy that's had a chokehold on this organization for good, for better or worse, since Jimmy Johnson left. And kind of gave up a little bit when Parcells came, but still maintained a pretty enough that he could get Terrell Owens on the football team.
Is that a product of him kind of hearing the noise, or is that a product of him wanting to set things up sort of for the future, or does he just think Steven's ready?
Yeah, I think it may be just Steven's ready. I think it actually started with T.O., with the situation with T.O. He didn't want to let him go. Steven was like, hey, listen, this is going too far here. Yeah. And I think Steven's kind of made some of his mistakes too, and I think Steven's going to make some mistakes. I don't think he's going to be a perfect guy, but I do think he thinks he's ready. He's given him more and more and more, and he's actually added titles throughout the years too. But I also think that Jerry Jones wants to be the owner and general manager of the Dallas Cowboys until the day he dies. And I think that unlike Al Davis, who was football arrogant because he was the innovator that brought the AFL in and brought the deep ball into football and did these things, he was really proud of his football legacy. I think Jerry's also proud of his football legacy, but he also thinks the way that I'm general manager till the day I die and we can be somewhat successful is if I say, Steven, I need you to handle this and this and this, and then maybe I'll make, maybe when I'm 85, I'll make my token decision on the sixth round of the draft. And so, and right now it's like that. He's there for the first 3 rounds. He's not there in the war room for the last 4 rounds of the draft. And it's just because there's not a lot of glory there, you know. And so I think he's slowly passing those things off to both Steven and the player personnel people, and I think that equals good things and better drafts since Garrett's been in charge, which is a big reason I'm a Garrett supporter, is because you can see the immediate uptick in quality of players drafted and brought in. And Garrett talked about from that team that started 1-6, there's 17 players left from before Garrett took over on a 90-man roster. And so I think there's a lot to be said about the fact that dude took over a team that was falling apart, brought it up a little bit, and then from there was able to make it 8-8 the next year with lots of turnover. Had a tougher schedule the next year, and all the radio people were, hey, if they go 8-8 again with this tougher schedule, it's a good thing. They probably played better. Well, they do that. They once again just barely miss out on the playoffs and the NFC East title, and everybody's roasting them and saying Garrett's doing a terrible job. Now, I will say, and the other thing I'm happy about is that Callahan's calling plays, and that Garrett should have a better handle on some game management situations, because that, over the course of the last 3 or 2 years, has probably cost us 2 or 3 games. That Baltimore game last year, there was the Arizona game 2 years ago, and I think there's one more that I'm just not coming up with. But we missed the playoffs both those years by a game. And so you win those games, it's a different situation.
Right.
So I'm happy about that. I'm excited about that, and I'm really hopeful that all those changes add up to the 2 extra wins you need this year.
Yeah, I can see that happening, definitely. And just kind of the overall sort of, it's kind of stereotypical, but I don't see the whole Valley Ranch thing going on anymore. Like the sense of entitlement seems to be gone.
Yeah.
People are, Bill Parcells kind of paid lip service, to it. Or he said you got to earn the star in your helmet, And then I think that sentiment was a little bit lost in like the Wade years and whatnot. But when I think Garrett now has the players thinking in that sense of, you got to earn that star. The star doesn't mean you've made it. You've got to make the star. And
that's the thing that I like. One thing I really like about Garrett specifically is because with Jerry Jones, there's always going to be that entitlement. Those 5 trophies are always going to be right in the front of the building when you walk in. And he's always going to talk about the glory days.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be that connection to that. There's always going to be those guys coming back. And not just that, but there's this huge nationwide fan base.
Yeah.
That's,
And Garrett talked about it in that 35-minute what do you call it? Introduction speech to his staff.
But that's what I love about Garrett is he's got a tie to that. He was on those teams.
Yeah.
And so he can say, I was here when Troy was here. I was here when Emmett was here, and I was here when Irvin was here. I was here when Charles Ailey was here. I was the locker next to Jay Novacek's. But you know what they did every day? They busted their ass. Yeah. And so
they're pretty to look at, but they're sure as hell better to win. You know, and this is how you do it.
And so that's what he's able to convey to the players, and he's got the rings on his fingers to prove that he was in the building at least.
Yeah.
And one big Thanksgiving Day win. So
yeah.
But I do think he carries that clout, and I do think he remembers when Jimmy was there and how he dealt with Jerry. He's still got that open line of communication, and I think that's good because I think in the past Jerry's had that open communication with Jimmy still. So he's been able to benefit from that relationship. But no other Cowboys coach has had that like Garrett has. And so, and I'm not saying Jimmy's going to be responsible if they win now. But what I'm saying is that it's good for Garrett to be able to go back and say, okay, at what point can I tell this guy, go sit in your office and don't ask any of my players in there for a minute?
Yeah. Every great person has influences, you know. And if something, magical comes out of the season, and you can look back and trace Jimmy Johnson as a influence, that's not anything bad.
Yeah, I'm just saying that he's got that person who knows how to handle Jerry, and then he has his own experiences on how to handle Jerry. And I think he's done a better and better job of it throughout the years. Like earlier this season, people were dogging him out about the play calling thing and about not just immediately saying, okay, yeah, I gave that over. And I think that was him in the media saying to Jerry Jones, I'll tell him when I'm ready to tell him.
Right.
And I don't think it was a cat fight or anything like that. I think it was him saying to Jerry, literally, I'm the head coach of this thing. You're the owner and GM. I respect you. 2 days later, I'm going to come out and say, it's my fault. But what I'm saying to you right now is I'll tell him Bill Callahan's calling plays when I'm good and well ready. And I really like that. So I am excited about this year. I'm cautiously optimistic because obviously, you've spent 17 years now getting burned. But I'm not even. I know there's a lot of Cowboys fans that aren't going to be satisfied without a Super Bowl win, and I'm not either. I want that, but I do. If they win a couple of playoff games, and they just look better, and there's a reason for that star to shine on the side of the helmet a little bit again, I'll be stoked and really happy. And I think that's something that we can have here. And I'm hopeful that's something we can even have long term here, if Garrett can add some stability to the club.
Just need to see some progress this year. I think that's really all you and I are asking for.
Yeah, definitely playoffs, and then like a nice little NFC Championship game would be nice.
It'd be nice, yeah. I wouldn't be mad at that.
Yeah, get yourself a bye, and then you only have to get one playoff win, and then I'll be happy.
All right, when we come back, we're going to ask the very abrasive question: is John Daniels' arrogance the reason for the Rangers' struggle this year?
Hey, welcome back to the Strand Hammy podcast. We're going to talk a little Rangers and their terribleness. They have been dreadful since the All-Star break. So much so that they've now been reported to look into trading Joe Nathan, who was one of their All-Stars.
Yes, it's been suggested that they trade Matt Garza already.
Oh, yeah. I did hear that. That's ridiculous. But they did. I mean, they went out and got Matt Garza. Like, okay, this will really help us out.
They won that one game.
Yeah, and then he was the only one that did anything for them. They did have a pretty epic win tonight, so hopefully all of what we're talking about will be irrelevant in a week.
Yep.
But going into today, they were 6 games back of the Angels, a couple games back in the wild card.
Athletics, sorry.
Or not the Angels, yeah. If they're behind the Angels, all has really gone.
It's going so bad.
6 games behind the Athletics somehow, who are a baseball team still, and 2 games back in the wild card. And until tonight, if I'm being honest, I'm really worried that this thing's not turning back around.
Yeah, no. The frustrating thing for me was that the Athletics were struggling,
and they couldn't make up any ground.
They couldn't make up any ground. So frustrating.
Yeah, we managed to lose ground to a team that's playing poorly.
Exactly.
And just, I mean, if you look at from the start of June to now, the turnaround in the standings, I think we were 2 or 3 games up. And then now we're 6 games back of the A's, and it's really, really annoying. And we'll get into this a little bit. I've been really frustrated by all the Ron Washington hate that's out there, and I understand it. He's not a great tactical manager, but I have a couple of guys on my timeline that just rip him to shreds every day. And so I don't know if it's like an overriding theme or if it's just like 9 dudes and that somehow I follow them all.
There has been a lot of Ron hate out there. I think a lot of it having to do with all of the sacrifice bunting that he does, and also some of the late inning bullpen management things. But a lot of that's kind of been his hand's been forced by sucker punches and stuff like that. Like Tanner Shepard was unavailable when we really needed him.
I like that there was nobody else there, and then there were 2 other guys.
Yeah, but don't worry about that. But I mean, I'm not a fan of the sacrifice bunt. I'm not going to tweet about it, but I mean, I really do think, especially when we're struggling, that we shouldn't just hand the other team outs.
See, I feel like he's doing it because they're struggling.
Yeah, he's trying to spark the offense.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know me, I can play both sides of an argument really well, but the way I see it, I just see it as a wasted out.
Yeah.
And when you got guys like you're forcing Martine and Elvis, who's been kind of picking up his bat a little bit here lately, you're forcing them to bunt.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's productive.
Well, see, and that's a pretty frustrating thing for me, man, is you finally see Elvis get going a little bit, and you're like, all right, maybe we got something here, and then It's like Beltray grounds into a double play every time he comes up now, and you're like, but you don't do that.
Yeah, anytime anybody's in scoring position, Beltray's not doing anything.
All right, and so I've spent quite a while killing my argument by saying I like the players. But I do honestly think that a lot of these struggles have a lot, and we said before the season we didn't love this team because John Daniels didn't do enough to supplement it. And I feel like he may have gotten a little arrogant going into this offseason as far as I've built this wonderful farm system, and he has. I'm not saying fire JD, okay? I'm not. He's built a wonderful program. I think it's going to be a wonderful club going forward. But I am worried that we're going to be kind of mired in upper tier mediocrity in this new wild card baseball system because he's got a good core, but he's got nobody to play the corner outfield. And he's going to let Nelson Cruz go at the end of this year. And I'm not going to be mad if it's the right decision, just like Josh Hamilton was. Just like Napoli probably was.
Yeah.
And definitely like Michael Young was.
Yeah.
But you've got to replace those dudes or you're just giving away production and saying, oh, it'll work out.
Yeah, I mean, I just think he was doing the best thing for the organization. The best thing for the organization was definitely not going to be signing Josh Hamilton for a stupid contract that he wanted. Napoli, they tried to get back, apparently, if what we read from...
Yeah, but you couldn't give him a job because you were married to Mitch Moreland. And I'm fine with Mitch Moreland. And I actually like Mitch at times through the year. I've really liked him. But he's terrible right now.
Yeah.
And so
you want his degenerative hip condition?
I'm just saying he's a better first baseman right now than Mitch Moreland. And I'm not... That's not right going forward all the time, but you also have to look at...
I mean, you also have the benefit of hindsight, too.
I absolutely do. But I do say also... And we've had a little bit of this scuffle before about how do you go about building a team. Do you just be good every year and one year you pop up and win it? This team was great 2 years in a row and didn't get it done. And that sucks. And that's going to haunt them no matter what.
Yeah.
But when you're great, it's hard to give up great and then just be okay with it and say we're going to be fine.
Well, you're talking about 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
2012, they were even greater than those years, like
absolutely,
on paper, right?
Yeah.
And we saw where that got him, you know?
Yeah.
So I think he's just building towards sustainability, and I think there is a little bit of a, what you were talking about, like pop up and win it every now and then. I mean...
and I understand that. I think while it's important to always build a strong, like always to have a strong farm system and always to have a strong core of your team, I understand those things. I understand everything he's done. My problem is there's got to be a little bit of strike while the iron's hot. And so, like, I don't even know. I mean, I'm looking back over the kind of the moves that they passed on over the last couple of years, or the free agents that they got beat out on. And it's Torrey Hunter, and I can't sell you on Torrey Hunter right now. It's Prince Fielder, and maybe I could sell you on Prince, but good Lord, that contract.
Yeah, it's like $1 billion.
Yeah. And Pujols, I don't know that they ever really got in on that seriously,
Thank
which
God.
was smart.
Yeah.
And Hamilton, they didn't get in that seriously. And I'll still maintain that I don't think Hamilton would be going this bad in this park.
No.
Just because sometimes his fly ball outs would be...
He'd be more comfortable here, too.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a mental case, as we see.
Well, he's definitely a mental case, and they're not coddling him the way that they did in Texas, and it's hard to coddle a player the way that Texas did him. But
so you're arguing against yourself again.
I am arguing against myself, but I will say, I could see a bad contract for a Prince Fielder not being the worst idea in the world, because then maybe you win in 2011, and we're not having this argument. I'm like, yeah, JD's great.
Build him a statue.
Exactly.
Kind of weird, but yeah.
But, I mean, that's the truth. That's the thing about, Donnie Nelson. You know that I'm not a huge Donnie Nelson fan. But it's hard for me to really, really criticize him because I'm like, well, he won a championship.
Right.
And so getting close and not getting there puts a different spin on history. And it is frustrating. And I don't really have a problem with John Day. I don't want him to be fired, like I said. But I do think he put sustainability, like you said, ahead of win now in this situation where I'm not sure he should have. Because you are good enough. And think about if they're just a little better offensively, they go out and make this Garza deal this year. We're talking about a legitimate World Series team instead of this, what we're looking at right now, which may turn around, but it's got a long way to turn around in a shorter amount of time.
I'm just, like you were doing, I'm going back and thinking about all the moves and non-moves they made, and I really find it hard to criticize anything. I mean, who are you going to add offensively, I guess? Michael Bourne? I mean...
Yeah, and I get that. And it's not, to me, it's not just about this offseason. They knew what they were doing with Hamilton.
Yeah.
Just like they knew what they were doing with CJ. And they had a plan when CJ left. And I feel like they should have had a plan when Josh left. They knew that was going to be crazy production leaving their lineup. And they knew they were going to let Napoli walk, too.
I think they also knew, though, that their pitching was going to be stronger than it ever had been. They couldn't have predicted that the injuries would have happened the way they did.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
But the fact still remains that they've been bad offensively this year with kind of minimal injuries. So I think they might have underestimated how bad the offense would be. I mean, this offense has been kind of historically bad for Rangers teams.
Yeah.
So I think you have every right to criticize the offensive, plan for the team. And what I said at the beginning of the year, I'm okay with kind of writing this season off a little bit. Now that we're in the middle of the season and the pitching's so awesome. I mean, if you get this team into the playoffs, I still think they could do big things. I said last time they could win the World Series. I'm sort of sticking to my guns there, even though it's, there's been a wet blanket thrown on the year. But I still think if you get this team in the playoffs with the pitching that it has, especially now with Garza.
Especially because you only need 3 in the playoffs.
And if you can add a bat still, I mean, we still have a couple days till the trading deadline. They've said that they're done dealing, but you can't trust anything that's out there right now.
Yeah.
So if they can add one bat.
But I think they're going to.
I think they're not gonna be this bad the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen them come out of a slump before.
They're not, and I think Elvis starting to hit is a good thing, and really will help them. I also, and this is another thing they couldn't necessarily predict, although I think teams have a general idea who's using and who's not, but they're probably going to lose Nelson Cruz for a good chunk of the rest of the season at just the worst time.
Right.
And that's not on JD either.
No.
But I do think that you should have had some outfield plans. Like, going so far as to say, this is a guy that really cares about his farm system. Have an outfielder in Double-A that's.
I mean, you can't just make them, though.
I know, but you can trade for them. They scout other people's systems. They know what they have surpluses of and what they have deficits of. And so there's no outfielders. And they traded the one that they maybe had in Mike Holt that's not an outfielder.
He's not an outfielder.
But maybe that dude can play out there. But that's how far we were reaching. We were thinking, okay, if Nelly goes, well, maybe Holt will step up. And I'd much rather have Garza, don't get me wrong. But I think that they got so drunk on the system because it worked. And it is working. I'm not.
Yeah.
But and it will work long term. But it's caused a problem now, and it's an issue. And and maybe the biggest defeat to my argument is that if this happened 4 years ago, I wouldn't care. And I'm not saying I wasn't a Ranger fan 4 years ago, but I was used to it. Right. I was used to this time of year. Okay, the All-Star breaks past, the Rangers are going to start losing because they don't have the pitching and they don't have the. And now you're like, holy crap! Look at this pitching staff. They could win a World Series with this, but they don't have the offense, and it's so defeating.
It is.
And it's like everything else. It's why Romo's maddening and Quincy Carter wasn't, because you expect Romo to do something. You're like, this guy's could be great, and he's just not right now. And it's the same thing with JD. I want to believe that at every turn he's got the answer. And right now I look at the outfield for the next 2-3 years, and I'm like, who's playing out there? Leonis is nice. I'm glad that he happened because I think we were all a little worried about him to start the season.
Right. Yeah.
And
there's always been talk about getting a big trade out there. Stanton or Bautista or something crazy like that. But like as we've learned with the Mavericks, you can't rely on blockbusters all the time. So I think your concern is definitely valid.
Yeah.
I just maybe I trust JD too much. I don't see him sticking to his system as arrogance. I just see it as sticking to a plan and not being overly reactive in the now. Because if you're in the now all the time, this is an extreme example, but if you're in the now every offseason, you're the Los Angeles Angels.
Yeah. No, and that's absolutely true. My arrogance comment was more based on it's good to be good. Okay, and they're going to be good for a long time, hopefully. And they've got a bunch of young guys that stepped up this year that looks like, okay, these guys are going to be good for a while. And Holland's cheap and Harrison's cheap and all that's great.
Locked up.
Yeah. But Tony Dorsett one time told a story about going to the Super Bowl in his rookie year, and they lost. And he was like, oh, it's no big deal. We'll be back next year. It's easy to go to the Super Bowl. Dude never went to the Super Bowl again in his career. And it's Tony Dorsett.
Yeah.
And so, or maybe they won that, so I don't know. But I know that he tells that story like, I thought it was going to just be this. We're the Cowboys, and I do what I want. And look at how awesome I am, and that's Roger Staubach. And so I feel like maybe they got a little bit of that, of the... Listen, and Ranger fans got a little bit of that, too.
Yeah.
And I'm probably guilty of it, too. But sometimes you do have to strike while the iron's hot. And so maybe this criticism of JD is more about Prince Fielder than it is about, and that contract was stupid, once again. Like I don't, But maybe one stupid contract at that point would have been worth it. Because you only get so many real rolls of the dice of this thing.
Man, I think JD understands that. I think he's just really picky about who he's going to spend that dumbass contract on. You know, I don't think Prince was a guy that he looked at and said, I want to invest 10 years in this guy.
Yeah.
You know, so I think he understands risks and it can weigh the benefits versus the disadvantages. I think I just place a little bit more trust. Maybe it's fanboyism or whatever it is, but I like where the team's at, even though they're kind of mired in this. They've been mired in this downturn recently. Offense has been hard to watch. Getting the games plain and simple have been hard to watch. But
yeah, the fact that you can score one run against the Rangers and win all the time,
just disgusting.
Yeah,
but I just can see the big picture in my head, and I feel fine about it.
I get it. It's just built up frustration about a team that, like I said, without JD, I probably don't care about as much. But you were so close.
Practically won the World Series.
You were so close.
Some tiny part of me thinks they did.
Yeah,
I'm serious about that. No, it really does.
But I know that if in a situation like that, I would be going insane. Like, what do I do? What do I do next to get better? And it would cause me to make somewhat reckless decisions. And this guy's so reserved and so, I'm only going to do the right thing for the future, and I'm only going to do...
I mean, I can see that, but he also does... People criticize him for hoarding prospects, but he's got a big piece at every trading deadline. So I don't see that criticism as...
Yeah, I'm not...
Not that you're saying that, but that's just another thing I've heard out there that I think is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you look at the farm system now. Like I think we were talking off the air. Their top 5 prospects are all in like low A right now.
Yeah,
so
that's true. They all look awesome.
System, they look really good, but our system is going to be thinner. We're not making any top 10 or top 5 lists anymore. But that's okay to me. That's fine. Restock, rebuild, go at it again. All right, that was good strong Rangers talk. When we come back, we're going to talk about balls. Mark and Travis back with you on the Stray and Hammy podcast, and now we're going to talk about our favorite sports balls. Just growing up, the feel of them, just any aspect. Like, I mean, I'll start off. Like my favorite balls that my favorite ball that I had was I was lucky enough to be a part of the opening ceremony for the 1999 or 1995 All-Star Game, and it afforded me the opportunity to get some really cool autographs. Yeah. And I was able to get Ozzie Smith's autographed.
Yeah.
Yes, Nolan Ryan. I think Raleigh Fingers was there. I didn't really realize, who a lot of these guys were at the time, but looking back on it now, it's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
So that was something I always, even though I didn't really know who a lot of guys were besides Nolan, I knew they were pretty special. So I always made sure to keep track of that ball, keep it in a safe place.
I was a big Ozzie Smith fan as a youth, not because I knew what he did on a baseball field. I just knew that he did backflips.
He did a backflip once.
And I was like, whoa. Hey,
so you were probably a pretty good fan of Bo Jackson then, too. With
I was a huge fan of Bo Jackson because he could run on ceilings.
He invented parkour.
No, they had this is way off topic, but
that's okay. We're talking about sports balls.
Yeah. They had a cartoon with Jordan and Gretzky and Bo Jackson where they would go save the world. Uh-huh. And they used sports balls and hockey pucks to throw at the bad people.
Is that on YouTube somewhere, you think?
Yeah, it's called like I don't even know what it's called, but it's awesome.
Yeah, you have to find it.
It's so great. I don't even think it has their voices, by the way. Like it is them.
Hey kids, I'm Michael Jordan.
Exactly. I think Jordan and Bo Jackson might have been the same voice. I loved one of the things that, like the first things that I can remember that I really loved about balls was when you came down Christmas morning, and my family was big on this. Like, I don't know if this is going to expose me as a less fortunate child, but... But you always got your new basketball and football on Christmas because, just knocked out 2 gifts. They're not that expensive.
Yeah.
But you could tell what they were immediately. Like a football box looks like a football box. It's got the random hump in a box. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then a basketball box the same way because, they always have a little bit of the ball poking out of the box. Mm. And those were my favorite 2 gifts every year. My favorites. That's ridiculous what you're laughing about. But that was my favorite. And then you always tear up whatever ball you got like 2 days later, dribbling it on some gravel road somewhere. And your dad would yell at you like, "I just spent $4 on that." But now they're crazy expensive. All like any kind of decent basketball or football is so much money. And that, like, one of the best gifts I ever received was before I was married, after I just met my wife. She found out that I was obsessed with and maybe we can talk about this a little bit, but when I got on varsity football my sophomore year, they got new balls. They were TDS or something like that, Wilson TDS or something like that. And they were amazing. And instead of like the dark brown that you associate with a football, they were like a tan almost, and they were super tacky. Like if you couldn't catch this ball, you were a complete spaz. And
were they amaze balls?
Yeah, they were. And like if you scratched them, like if you scratch a normal football, if you scratch it, I don't know why I'm weird. I scratched.
Sounds like a personal problem.
But if you scratch a normal football, it turns tan from the brown. If you scratch this one, it would almost turn like a white. It was crazy, and the laces on them were so nice. And I had to deep snap my senior year because they didn't have anybody else that could do it, not because I was any good at it. But that was always great, just when you got the new footballs for the year. And my wife went out and bought me one of those balls and dropped like $95 on it or something. And I was like, I will marry you.
On the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to like the feel of balls.
Yeah.
My favorite ball to hold is actually the tennis ball.
Yeah.
And I've never really played tennis, but I've played with tennis balls a lot, and it was always kind of a drill I would do. My dad would let me go outside at any not any hour of the day, but in the afternoon, mornings, and throw the tennis ball on top of our roof and practice catching fly balls.
Yeah.
And I've always, and also he'd let me even play inside, like on a rainy day. He would let me bang the tennis ball off a wall. We had high ceilings and whatnot, so I could kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
Inside that I could do outside, and it's kind of extended into my adult life. Is I just like to have a tennis ball. It's kind of like my stress ball. I like to have a tennis ball in my hand.
No, that's absolutely true, man. And the tennis ball and the racket ball kind of are great. Just the tennis ball may be better though because it's a little softer and it's got a little sound deafening. But you can that is the ball you can kind of get away with playing within the house and. Yeah. You play wall ball with it. You can do dribbling drills with it. You can play with your dog with it. It's it's the most versatile. Yes. And you can actually play tennis with it. Although I don't know anybody. I know a couple people that do, but I don't. I was a terrible tennis player. I tried to hit home runs on the tennis courts, and apparently that's not the goal.
It's not the accepted practice.
So we were talking a little bit about this before the show. When you did get to higher level athletics and they started getting the expensive sports ball, were you as enthralled with that as I was?
Probably not, but I did recognize and appreciate the quality of the basketball.
Yeah.
I think they had Spalding TF somethings at the time, and those.
Anytime there's initials, they're awesome.
Oh yeah. Baseballs are pretty junky in high school, so you can't really feel a difference.
But the Major League Baseball,
oh man, you touch one of those,
rub the dirt.
Amazing, I caught one at a. It was before, what was it called? Batting practice. I caught one at batting practice, and I was just enthralled with it because they're wound so tightly, and the stitches seem like barely raised. It's like, how do the pitchers get any kind of movement on their pitches?
Yeah,
but. Yeah, I've always been kind of enthralled with the Major League Baseball, and I still want to get more.
Yeah, see, I'm not a huge baseball guy, but anytime they talk about there's a random hour-long TV show about how they make all the baseballs, I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm locked in.
Yeah.
And they get, dirt from certain places.
Yeah.
so weird, but it's awesome, yeah. But like you said, the basketballs... in high school when we first got the nice basketballs that I don't remember what it's called either, but it was randomly almost cushier to the touch, but still firm. They had great rotation on them.
The ridges were perfect.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I'm 5'10", but I could palm them like crazy. And it was really helpful.
Yeah, didn't help me at all.
Yeah. Do you? Were you crazy? I'm still crazy, but. About I have a good football and we don't use it outside or we use it outside but we use it on grass. I won't throw it on the street. And I have a pretty nice basketball still, and I should buy a crappy basketball because if
you won't touch it.
I hate dribbling it outside. I have to find an open gym to play basketball.
The first couple of weeks when I buy it, I'm like that.
Yeah.
But then as soon as I spoil it, I'm just going hard on it. I'm scuffing it up. I'm like, whatever.
Well, see, and I think that comes from my childhood where a basketball would not be replaced until the next Christmas. So if I tore it, would always get torn up by the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I would try to keep it good for 3 or 4 months, something like that. And now that I'm fat and I don't play that much,
it just happens by itself.
I can keep the ball nice. And now, it gives me an excuse to only want to play in air-conditioned environments.
There you go. So that's why I can never get you out.
Exactly. We kind of talked about the tennis ball being the best ball, but when you were a kid, what was the ball you were most excited about when you got?
Man, I'm trying to think.
Because it's got to be. I would imagine it was a little harder for you. You're a baseball guy, and those come a dozen.
Right. Yeah. Because we would buy those, in bulk. Because me and my dad would go out. So I'd always be excited when we got new balls.
Yeah.
But the first time I got an indoor specific basketball was really cool because I always got the synthetic before that, and there is an appreciable difference between.
It feels like a tire.
Right. Yeah. And it smells like rubber. It's just but when you get that first indoor ball, you just want to like baby it. You want to get some catcher's mitt oil and just like lather
I
it.
hate those outdoor balls, man. Like even to this day,
Yeah.
because it always feels like they're overinflated somehow, and they do smell really.
They sound weird too.
They
when
sound
you it's like ping, ping.
They sound weird, and they come off the rim super weird. But they also always make them in the dumbest colors. Like the orange is not at all what a leather would be,
or like glow in the dark.
Oh,
like who's gonna play in the dark at night?
That should never happen.
Who's gonna play at night? Yeah. Like, get a light, bro.
Get a light. Because you still can't see the rim.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
There's a shot. Oh wait, the basket's over there.
Yeah. No, I was actually always as a kid. I hated Little League baseball when I played, but I was.
Sorry.
No, Little League did hate me. I got walked all the time because I was huge, but but they didn't realize I couldn't swing the bat if I wanted to. But I was always enthralled by the kids, like the baseball kids with their bat bags.
Oh, man.
I always thought that was cool. But the dad that did have the bucket, like the construction bucket full of baseballs, and it has a lid on it. That was always really cool to me. And we never had anything like that. We just had like baseballs that we found in our pasture because people hit them over.
Yeah. We're gonna have like equipment talk next. Like like shoes and like just flat out equipment, bats. I mean, baseball. You gotta get a cool bat, man. That was the thing. But
so if you could have any ball that you've ever played with, ever right now, what would it be?
It'd probably have to be, and I think I have this somewhere, but my first home run that I ever hit, because that was the coolest feeling ever. Actually, I'd like to have I'll take that back. I'll take the one home run I hit in high school. I don't think I ever got that ball. And it was severely wind blown. I think there was like a tropical storm blowing in or something. And I was so shocked I didn't bother to shake the hand of my third base coach, and he like lambasted me for it later. But I'd like to have that one back because that was a cool moment because I never thought I'd be able to get one out. Yeah. And I finally did. Wind blown or not. My dad swore it went over by like 30 feet, so it wasn't wind blown. But yeah, that was a cool moment.
We'll take it. Mine would be if I could have one of those balls from my senior year in football that you can't find them anywhere now, and I think they're like $170 online now, which is crazy. Because they play with them in like a lot of major college plays with them too, and they're just insanely expensive, and I can't. It's not in the budget with the 3-year-old. My wife's like, "Can we get Jack's new clothes?" And I'm like,
I really gotta get this football here, dude. When you scratch it, it turns white.
Exactly. You can't really explain it. It's a female. There's a lot of things that, and I would imagine that the fascination with all sports balls, pretty much, you can't explain properly to a spouse.
Yeah.
So when someday when you have a child, what is the first ball that you'll get him?
He's gonna get a soft baseball.
A soft baseball.
Yeah, he's not gonna get like a hard ball or anything, but probably a soft baseball.
Yeah, those are awesome. They really like them too. The kids they're in my backyard all the time from the kids, and Dax has a couple little, and he loves baseball, which drives me insane.
Yeah. You got a little Puerto Rican in him.
He's got a soccer goal, like a nice soccer goal. He's got 2 or 3 soccer balls. I think I bought him like 9 footballs, even though I swear I'm trying to get him not to play that.
You sure you want to play this one, man?
I work with him on dribbling all the time with a basketball. I'll stop him in the middle of the day and be like, dribble this basketball right now. And all he wants to do is play baseball.
Smart kid, guaranteed contracts.
Doggone half Puerto Rican baby. loves baseball. And so he'll probably have his little box of special baseballs too, whereas I'm like, can you please just try this
football out,
I'll be the opposite Barry Larkin.
It turns white when you scratch it. All right, thanks for listening to the Stray and Hammy podcast. Make sure to go to the site www.strayandhammy.com and follow us on Twitter for more sports ball talk. Probably not though. All right, thanks for listening.